Educational Center in partnership with Cambridge University Press and Assessment. As you probably already know, Educational Center is an international bookshop with over 30 years of experience on the Romanian foreign book market. We are delighted to be a Cambridge distribution partner, and we thank you, Cambridge, for this solid partnership. We are pleased to have with us today Aniela Bușilă, educational consultant in Romania for Cambridge University Press and Assessment, who will present the latest news from Cambridge at the opening of the webinar. We also have with us Benjamin Herbert, a professional learning and development specialist from Cambridge, who will also present a very generous and up-to-date topic, AI supporting teachers and learners. We hope that the topics presented will be of real use and interest for you. So if during the session you would like to ask questions, please click on the raise your hand button or write a message in the chat, and we will try to answer you in due time. Thanking our speakers for their valuable contribution, we now leave you in their company. So, Aniela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Raluca. Thank you, Cosmin. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Educational Center, for making it possible for so many teachers of English to get updates from Cambridge and to get an insight into AI from Ben, my colleague. I'm going to be with you for a very short presentation, but if you need more information, please contact me. If you need information about books, about more books, please contact the Educational Center. Now, my presentation will include new Cambridge exams. We've got new Cambridge exams, new official preparation materials, recognition, because we always need to clarify recognition. And then I will tell you how to become a Cambridge Preparation Center if you're not one already. And just 2 slides about Cambridge teaching qualifications, because this is what we want. Yes, we are here to always get our better version. So please write your questions in the chat if it's necessary. And at the end of my presentation, I will try to deal with as many as possible. First of all, a very short business card for Cambridge University Press and Assessment. We've been on this planet as an assessment, a prestigious, the market leader assessor in the world for 113 years. The first exam was launched in 1913, and it was what we call today C2 proficiency. So we have always made exams. Then we have also developed official preparation materials for those exams. So we have a myriad of titles that can help you and your students have a beautiful journey on this wonderful path of learning English. Last but not least, we've also been the author of the most prestigious teaching qualifications for teachers of English all over the world, qualifications such as Teaching Knowledge Test, CELTA, and Delta. More information about them at the end of my presentation. Before I move on, I want to invite you to watch a very short emotional video and think about your own experience with Cambridge. If you're new in your career or if you haven't yet met us, you can also reflect on how we can partner till the end of my presentation. Please enjoy.
Teaching English.
Sorry, I don't think you can hear. Can you hear, all right? Can somebody confirm, please?
Is not always easy.
We can hear it.
Some days can be hard.
But then there are those moments
that remind me of my impact and why I became a teacher.
watching them succeed is just the most incredible feeling.
That feeling when they overcome their fear of speaking English.
That feeling when they accomplish their goals.
That feeling when they take the time to say thank you. That feeling when your world grows. Cambridge is where your world grows.
So, we all have that feeling in the classroom or online teaching students. I would like you to become our friends if you're not already, and try to look at the books that we've been publishing for years, for 550 years, and the exams that we've prepared. New exams. So all our exams, all our qualifications have been recognized by a bit less than 26,000 institutions all over the world. And those qualifications are Cambridge English qualifications, the paper-based version, Cambridge English qualifications digital, and we've got also placement tests and the new Cambridge English skills test and lingua skill. Now, when it comes to the qualifications that probably most of you have heard of, we are proud to have a beautiful display of all levels according to CFR. Our exams are perfectly mapped on CFR because our experts were the only experts in the world that supported the linguists within the European Council to develop, to create, to elaborate the CFR. So we've got exams from pre-A1 starters for very young learners in Romania, learners that are, let's say, 5 years old, 6 years old. They need to be autonomous in writing and in writing and reading. So from pre-A1 starters up to C2 proficiency. Now, what's new? Well, we've got pre-A1 starters and A1 movers in the digital format. A beautiful, beautiful way to introduce the concept and the experience of an international serious exam to a child's heart and mind, so that they will never, ever be stressed because of any exams, not only Cambridge exams, but any exams in their life. I'm going to show you another very short video for you to have an idea of this beautiful experience that Cambridge is proposing these days to all teachers and their young students.
We are bringing digital adventure to young learner exams. Discover a world of English with Cambridge English Qualifications Digital for young learners. Millions of young learners have used our tests to improve their everyday English skills, step by step. Pre-A1 Starters Digital and A1 Movers Digital help young learners build a solid foundation for their English development. They provide a natural way for this generation of learners to demonstrate their progress in all 4 skills: listening, reading and writing, and speaking. Children create their own avatars to explore fantasy islands, a turtle island under the sea, and a dinosaur island. They work their way along the map by completing tasks. They earn rewards after every task, keeping them motivated from start to finish. Looking cool! The test's user-friendly nature puts young learners in control of their experience so they can answer questions to the best of their ability. Everyone receives a certificate and feedback on how to improve, helping them look forward to the next step on their English language learning journey. We're here to help you prepare your learners so you can feel confident they're ready to show their skills. Kickstart your learner's English adventure.
Well, To tell you the truth, you know that Cambridge have always made available sample papers online, and you can find links to these digital exams for young learners. They look like games to us, but tell you the truth, I tried just to feel it a bit, and I couldn't stop. I mean, I continued playing the game. It's addictive, it's very intuitive, it's beautiful, and it gives your students the opportunity to feel proud of their knowledge and abilities while playing a game according to international assessment standards. Now, I would like each of you to write in the chat, yes, if you think that your students might be interested in these digital exams for young learners, or no, if your students might not be interested for various reasons. You don't need to write the reason. Maybe they are older, or maybe they prefer the paper-based things in the classroom and not the digital games. So can I have your feedback, please, in the chat? Yes, if you believe that your students might be interested, and no, if they won't. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. For sure. Yes. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. I don't have children. I had one. I wouldn't think of a better way to explain it to him, to her, what an international exam is. That is fun, that is an opportunity, it's not an obstacle, it's not a barrier, sorry, it's not something that will, I don't know, will add pressure or stress, because it's not true. Thank you very much for your feedback. Now, moving on.
We are bringing
I want to introduce a new test. It's not an exam. It doesn't have recognition, but it's a perfect way to either place your students in a group or assess their skills, their knowledge during your preparation for a Cambridge exam, or even at the end of the first year of preparing for one exam. Most of us will need, let's say, 2 years to prepare a student for B2 first, for C1 advanced, for C2 proficiency. And what happens is, what happened till this year was that at the end of the first year of preparation, we didn't have anything to show parents. Look, this is what we, the teacher and the student, have been doing this year. There was nothing official from Cambridge. Now you can have this wonderful test. It's called Cambridge English Skill Test. We've got a version for schools. We've got a version for general, even for adults, and business. It checks the level between A1 and C1 plus. And as I've told you, it's got three, let's say, hats, three functions. It's also very easy to take it. You need to purchase the credits from an authorized center. We've got already 2 authorized centers in Romania that can help you. You have to create a test session in the portal, you as a teacher. Then you have to upload candidate entries, and then you have to run the test, and in 48 hours you get the results. For you, for your students, and for your parents to know where you are. And results are mapped onto CEFR as any other qualification. I repeat, this test does not replace a qualification per se. And this test has zero recognition from international or national institutions. It's just an instrument for us to be even more professional and for our students and their parents to understand how great teachers we are. Now, another, there's a lot to talk about this new test, but I don't have time now. If you're curious, contact me or just access the QR code. My presentation will be sent by you by the Educational Center soon in a follow-up email, so you can use the QR codes and all the active links that you'll see. Another new test is Lingua Skill. It is dedicated to adults. There are teachers that prepare adults, and it's got fantastic recognition, especially amongst companies. The test includes grammar and vocabulary, but it's a bit better adapted to the adulthood world and not so much to children and young teenagers. Now, for more information about Lingua Skills, please access this QR code once you've got my presentation. New books, because we've got new books. We're very proud of the new set of tests, authentic digital practice tests for all levels, starting A2 to C2. If you need more information, please contact the Educational Center and they will guide you through. Another title that personally I'm looking forward to trying it out starting September is Shining Lights, a beautiful series which is the perfect mirror in integrating learning and assessment. And it's new, and you've got plenty of resources and additional materials that you can use. Again, Shining Lights, if you're curious about it, you can talk to the Educational Center. They will help you. Now, there are other titles that teachers have been fond of for years and years, and these titles have successfully helped millions of teachers and students to get their successful experience with learning and teaching English. There are some titles on this slide, but I've got more others if you want to find out more. We've got new titles for you, for teachers, methodology, pedagogy, a new title for the TKT course, a new title for the CELTA course if you're thinking of CELTA, and many titles in the pocket editions. Cambridge One is something that you should not miss. So if you have to take anything from my presentation today, please take Cambridge One. You haven't heard of it? Don't worry, just go on cambridgeone.org. You have my link here and make an account. Make an account and you'll discover a lot of titles, a lot of materials that are for free, but you can also activate the e-books for students, workbooks, and teachers' books. If you get a digital code from the Educational Center, and they will give you for free this digital code if you purchase 20 students' course books on paper. But Cambridge One is a miracle. You'll have everything there. You will get digitalized in a second. And there are webinars, and there's a specially dedicated YouTube channel to it. Recognition, movers, flyers for 5th graders in bilingual intensive classes, A2 key minimum for secondary school bilingual intensive classes, and B1 still the minimum for the baccalaureate. I know you might have heard rumors. They're just rumors. We will make sure you are informed if anything changes in the recognition. But the recognition hasn't changed in 4 years now. So this is the slide. Again, if you need more info, do contact me. When it comes to the international recognition, this slide you can use in your classrooms with the students. The QR code will direct you to a very user-friendly search engine. You set the country, you set the exam that you're looking for, and then you'll get all the institutions recognizing that exam. Are you a preparation center? Congratulations, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, well, you should know that the preparation center could be a teacher with or without PFA, with or without a center, a freelancer, a teacher with the teacher's name, or an institution that prepares and registers, enters candidates for Cambridge exams through one of our 4 authorized exam centers. If you're curious about those centers, find an exam center by clicking on this link in my presentation. What happens is that if you register one candidate, you automatically become a preparation center and you get a preparation center logo to use it on all social media and to promote your center, to promote yourself. 50 candidates, you will get a certificate. 250 candidates plus 3 years of collaboration with us, plus 3 exams, you become a goal preparation center. There are only 22 preparation centers now in Romania. So anybody interested? Here's the challenge. And if you are really ambitious, 1,500 candidates, 3,000 books published by Cambridge, you will become a Cambridge English educational partner. Now, I promised a couple of words about qualifications for you to get better, to get more diplomas from us, to get more certification from us. Well, we've got TKT for teachers at the beginning of their career, CELTA, the next level, and Delta, the diploma, the ultimate certification that you can get from Cambridge. You can get all of them in Romania, and I'm so grateful for this reality, because some years ago you could get them only abroad. Now they are here through Shakespeare School and International House. If you are curious about other webinars, please register. You will have the QR code in my presentation very shortly. Then this is what you can get for free, and it's brand new. You've got reading guides as new, because the writing and the use of English and the speaking, they're already there, you know them. Tips for holding an exam, how to prepare for pre-A1 starters, lesson plans, they are new. Lesson plans digital are new. So, and supporting your students with dyslexia. We've got a beautiful podcast as well. If you haven't registered so far for our newsletters, please go ahead. You can use this QR code and I will contact you. But you can also contact me directly. You have my contact details here, but you will have them soon in your own version of my presentation through the Educational Center. So thank you very much for your patience. I think I'm a bit late. If you have questions, I will be here. Please write them in the chat. And while Ben is presenting, thank you very much, Ben, I will be replying. Ben,
Thank you, Aniela.
that you're here with us. I wish you good luck in your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aniela. Okay, hello everyone. So I'll just get this ready. Okay, so my name is Ben and I'm a professional learning and development specialist at Cambridge University Press and Assessment. Basically, that means it's my job to train teachers around the region which I operate in, which includes Central and Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. I've been working in ELT for about 16 years now, mainly as an English teacher, mostly in the Czech Republic, where I'm based, but also in the Middle East. And in recent years, I've moved into teacher training. So if any of you know the Cambridge CELTA course, I used to be a trainer on that. And I've also spoken at various teaching conferences around Central and Eastern Europe as well. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at AI and how it can help both teachers and learners. So we'll begin just by looking at what AI actually is. And then I'll give you some tips for supporting, as I said, both teachers and learners. We'll then reflect on these ideas. I'll give you some final takeaway points, and then I've also organized some extra resources for you. There will also be time for some questions and answers at the end. Now, before we start, I'd just like to know how you feel about AI and how confident you are with using it. So I have this question here. Could you please write in the chat either N, S, or V? So how confident do you feel about using AI in your teaching to support you and your learners? Not confident, somewhat confident, or very confident? Okay, I'm seeing lots of S's, a few N's, the occasional V. I think so. It's good to see that many of you have, well, already have um, some ideas about how to use AI, and that you feel to a degree that your confidence is beginning to grow in this respect. So let's then move on just to think about what AI actually is. So I've got some pictures here. Um, I'd I'd like you to again put in the chat. This time it will be a number. So what is AI to you? Is it number one? Is it lots of data? Is it something like number two, something more akin to a robot helper? Or is it number three, a possible replacement teacher? So in the chat box, could you please tell me one, two, or three, or maybe a mixture of some of these? Hmm. I see someone put down everything. I think I started off seeing lots of ones and twos, and now there's just a few threes in there. I hope that by the end of the session, you should be able to see some of the potential uses of AI, both in the classroom and for planning, and should hopefully come away with the idea that AI could be a useful tool for us to use as educators, and that it's not likely to replace us as teachers anytime soon. Okay, so I have a quote here from Nikki Hockley, and this quote comes from a title in the Cambridge Handbook for Teachers series. It's called 30 Considerations for Using AI. And if you'd like to find out more about using generative AI in education, I'd highly recommend that you take a look at this publication. So, um, yeah, in it, Nikki says, teachers have responded to the appearance of tools such as ChatGPT with both joy and fear. And Nikki argues that having an understanding of some of the principles behind generative AI can help demystify it. So let's just look at some of the like basic principles behind AI. And I think as users of AI, we do need to just bear in mind that any AI system is only as good as the data that it's trained on and the prompts that it is given. So I think one thing that we will touch on as we look at some of the activities today is the importance of clear prompting. But it is important to remember that, yeah, AI will have been trained on some data, and it's only as good as that data. This means that when we ask an AI system to generate something for us, it's not really being creative in the way that a human would be. What it's doing is it's looking at lots of examples of what we've asked it for and then creating something based on that knowledge, based on what it's been trained on. So this means therefore like they have no like understanding of what they're generating. They're simply looking for patterns in a vast corpus of data and then reproducing what it expects, what it thinks it should generate based on that data. This means that no matter what they say, even if we're having what feels like a very natural conversation with a chatbot, that they will have no no empathy for us. And another really important aspect of using AI, we have to remember that AI can hallucinate, that it will make up data if it can't find any. So this means that, well, as users of AI, we have to cast a critical eye over what it produces for us. But with our teachers' hats on, we can see that this is also an opportunity. If we take the opportunity with our learners to get them to critically work with, to critically analyze the output of AI chatbots, then we're not only helping them prepare themselves for a future world where they'll be using AI a lot more, but also we're helping them develop their critical thinking skills. So there are opportunities for us here. Okay. It's also useful just to think about how AI has evolved over time. So we can see with the recent release of generative AI models that what AI is capable of has changed. In the past, predictive models could do tasks such as identifying, classifying, or finding. But generative models take this one step further and use that information to actually be able to create things. So instead of just simply identifying that something's an image of a dog, generative AI can create an image of a dog. Instead of classifying scripts, as I'm sure we know very well, AI can write scripts. And instead of simply finding information, AI can actually produce a recommendation. So we can see that, AI is evolving, and that as such, it's presenting us as educators with, okay, some challenges, which I think we're all aware of, but also some opportunities as well. So before we move on to look at some useful ideas for how AI can actually support both us as teachers and also our learners, I thought it would be good to end this section with this quote. We just need to remember that AI is not inscrutable magic. It's math and data and computer programming made by regular humans. There's nothing sort of magical behind AI. It doesn't, or at the moment, it's not capable of independent thought. It's just simply the sum of its input. And that we, as users, we need to maybe react to this by improving our digital literacy and thinking about how we can use it effectively in the classroom. So I thought we could start off just by looking at how AI can be used to support learners in a language learning context. And I've grouped the activities we're going to look at today into personalization, using AI as a conversation partner, and also as a tutor or study buddy. So let's begin with personalization. So one thing we can do is encourage our learners to use generative AI chatbots such as ChatGPT, for example, to seek answers to everyday ELT questions. So, for example, something like this: I am a B1 English learner. Should I use demotivated or unmotivated? Tell me the difference. So notice here, we're not encouraging our learners to use AI simply to find the answer to a question. We're using or encouraging them to use AI to help them decide on the appropriate answer themselves. So here is an example of the output that I got when I put this into an AI chatbot. So the idea behind this is that we can encourage our learners to use generative AI to aid their learning and not just get those immediate answers. So, so we're trying to train them to use AI to help them rather than encouraging them just to get the answer as as quickly as possible. Um, so that's one thing we could do. I think with this, it's just important to remember that as a general rule, if we're going to encourage our learners to use AI in some way, there should always be some kind of processing which goes on after they've got the response from the chatbot. If we ever find that we're encouraging our learners just to get the answer and copy and paste it somewhere, then that's going to be a problem. The value of using AI is that it gives learners something to work with, so that they have to think, they have to process what the AI has given them, and then use that in some way. So in this example, let's say there was either a gap fill exercise or one of those exercises where a learner has to circle the correct answer, and they weren't sure between demotivated or unmotivated. Then this could be a good way of dealing with that. Asking AI what the difference is between these words, and then processing that and deciding themselves what the correct answer should be. Okay. Another example could be hallucinations. So we touched on earlier about how chatbots will sometimes make up data. They will hallucinate if they can't find the data that we've asked them for. And this means obviously that we have to be quite careful with what AI chatbots produce and how we use that. But it is an opportunity to help our learners develop their critical thinking skills. And I think a good way of doing that would be to do this exercise here. So you could put learners into small groups, and ideally each group should know like a particular place very well. It's much better, or this works much more effectively, if the area that the learners know about or have in common is relatively small. So you put them in these groups, and they then ask a chatbot for tips for spending a week or a weekend in these places. And each group needs to analyze the results and then check for hallucinations. Is the chatbot actually giving correct information? And then at the end of this, have a discussion with your classroom about the results, about the fact that hallucinations happen, and like why this might be the case, and if there's any lessons from this, if we should maybe be a bit careful when we use information provided by a chatbot. So I think this can be just a nice activity that can really help train our learners in terms of the critical attitude they need to take towards the output of generative AI. Maybe just in the chat box, could you please tell me, do you think this activity would work well with your students? And do you think this would help your learners in terms of their language development? Do you think it would help them practice their language, for example? Okay, so a few people seem to think that this would be an activity that would work well with their learners. And yeah, there's a chance here for learners to practice language as well. Don't forget, they'll be collaborating to do this activity. You could perhaps, it doesn't have to be based on a location. You might ask ask them about I don't know, particular species of animal, for example, or something. So there's different ways you could introduce like a different topic, but the idea is that the learners use AI to try to get information about something, but then critically analyze that information. And in doing so, that they should ideally do that in English, so it's got value as a communicative activity. Okay. Another thing that AI chatbots can be really good at is generating pictures. And um, like I've used it to ask AI to like generate all sorts of things. So we have, for example, here a cat, a camel in the desert, a family visiting the Acropolis in bad weather, the Eiffel Tower being built, but in the 21st century. And AI was able to generate all these things. Now, this is a really powerful tool that we can use. So, just in the chat box, how can students use this functionality of AI? I like that someone's immediately linked it to the picture description in Cambridge Part 2 speaking exams. And in fact, actually, this is something which I would recommend for teachers is you could actually flip this the other way around. You could perhaps, as a teacher, use this to generate pictures if you want to give your learners extra practice for the speaking exam. So it could be used by learners to generate the practice, but also teachers. Someone said speaking. I think that there's many uses that we could put this to in the classroom. I'm sure you've all experienced when you've set up an activity, perhaps like designing a poster or something, and maybe there's some learners who they've got lots of good ideas, but they're just not very good at drawing, and that holds them back. Well, in that case, why not let them generate an image using AI and use that? If that's the case, as long as they're prompting the chatbot in English, I think there's a very good justification for allowing them to do that. You could also, for example, show your class an image and then ask the class to prompt a chatbot to create a similar image. That can, again, in terms of preparing learners for exams such as, let's say, the B1 preliminary, where they need to describe those pictures, that can be really good because the clearer their description is in the prompt, the closer the image should be to the image that you present them. So you could use this as a basis for speaking activities. It can be used as a way of helping learners who aren't so good at drawing, and you can actually use it as a writing activity, the crafting of the prompt as well. So there's many things that you can use this for. Maybe before we move on, just one more question. How could you adapt this activity for use in your classroom? Think about your students. I see in the chat box, someone has mentioned it could be useful for writing short stories. And again, that relates to Cambridge exams because in the writing sections of some of the exams, learners are given visual prompts and need to write a short narrative. I think one thing I think that many teachers might want to consider is whether this activity would be done individually or perhaps in pairs or small groups. Perhaps if you have some weaker learners, they could help each other write a prompt. It doesn't have to be done in isolation. Um, Someone's mentioned it could encourage learners to use new language, and I think that's right. You could, if you've just introduced some vocabulary for a unit from a course book, you could perhaps get learners to think of an image that would include lots of those words, and then get them to prompt the AI and see what it produces. And then perhaps they could share their images and people from other groups would have to guess which words were included. There's many, many things we can do with this image generation. Okay. Moving on, another really quite useful idea is using AI as a conversation partner. So the idea behind this is that it gives learners an opportunity to practice their speaking pretty much wherever they are, as long as they have a computer or a mobile phone. So many chatbots have a voice chat tool. ChatGPT does, but there are others which have this. And students who need assistance, perhaps with pronunciation or speaking and or listening skills more generally, could use this feature to help them develop these areas. So that voice chat function, it allows a learner to interact with ChatGPT in a spoken form, and ChatGPT can even provide feedback on some mispronounced words or sounds. It also means that they'll be listening to the AI bot talking at in a natural way with the fluency of something approaching a native speaker. So it should improve their listening skills. Let's take a look and a listen to an example here.
Hi, I'm a student of English. Act as a conversation partner and give me feedback if I make any mistakes. Let's talk about coffee.
Sure, I'd be happy to help. So do you like drinking coffee? If so, what's your favorite type?
I love coffee. I love espresso drinks. I love them with milk or without milk.
Great. Your sentences are clear and easy to understand. Just one small suggestion. Instead of repeating I love, you could say I love espresso drinks, whether with milk or without. So, what's your favorite place to get coffee?
Okay, so there's an example of ChatGPT being used as a conversation partner. If we're going to do this, there's just a few advantages of this. You know, ChatGPT and other chatbots have been trained on such a wide variety of data that our learners can choose from, you know, pretty much any topic, a wide variety of topics, and ChatGPT or another chatbot should be able to have a conversation with them about it. And it allows learners to seek feedback on errors, as what happened in the example. And there's also the opportunity there. Learners could possibly send a screen capture to a teacher if they want to demonstrate like a particular point that they've been working on. And as I saw some people mentioning in the chat, it could be used to prepare for project work as well. Perhaps learners could have a discussion with a chatbot and see if they have got enough ideas for a project, or perhaps the chatbot could help them brainstorm. So there's many ways that this like conversational functionality of AI can be used by our learners in a way that's helping them develop their English and hopefully their critical thinking skills as well. So just in the chat box, could you tell me, like, what's good about this as a language learning activity, and how well would it work with your students? I see in the chat box someone mentioned that yeah, it's perfect for practicing paired discussions. Every student has a perfect partner, and it's interesting that you mentioned perfect partner there, because this is gradable to the level of the learner. The learner in the prompt at the beginning can give their level of English or ask the chatbot to grade its output to the level of English that it hears. So it's like automatically gradable. And also we're helping to develop our learners' autonomy as well. I've seen in the chat someone's just mentioned self-study. And yeah, this is something again where I think if we want to help develop our learners' use of AI and their autonomy and their critical thinking skills, I'd highly recommend taking the time in lessons to really practice these activities that we're looking at today. But more importantly, make sure you incorporate some time for reflection afterwards. Get your learners to talk together and then maybe as a class about how doing these activities have helped them with their English and also what they need to be careful about when using AI. And then hopefully over time, you're going to help develop a culture of responsible use of AI, as well as autonomous use, which in its for language learning purposes is what we want to see. Also, I'm very glad someone's also mentioned one of the real advantages of this is that learners won't be embarrassed if they make a mistake. Some learners are just, they're that little bit shy, or especially with teenagers. Teenagers often don't want to be seen or heard to make mistakes in front of others in the class. Well, if there's a student who's like that, they can do this, at home, in their room, away from anyone else. So there's no witness if they make a mistake. So it should hopefully help them with their speaking confidence over time. Okay. Finally, in terms of AI for language learners, let's take a look at this idea. So this is the idea of a tutor or study buddy. So with this, we have the idea that we show students how to seek feedback on their writing, and students can paste their written work into a chatbot and ask it for feedback. So for example here, rate my text for coherence and fluency and tell me how I could improve it. Don't rewrite it for me. And I think that's that's important. We know sometimes these chatbots do like to be helpful, but in terms of helping our learners develop their writing, rewriting it for them wouldn't be helpful. Or this, does my text sound natural, fluent enough? Tell me what you'd suggest I focus on in the future. So giving the chatbot samples of their writing and getting feedback on how they could improve. Or just simply asking if a piece of writing fits the genre or format of a specific type of writing. So again, in the chat box, do you think this would work well with your learners? And what's good about it as an activity? And what value does AI add to this? I like someone in the chat has said AI becomes a thinking partner, not a shortcut. And yet, we want it to be, as you said, a tool that helps students learn how to think, not just what to know. So this is really what we want. And again, if I use this with learners, I make sure we will do this in class. They'll get feedback on their writing. I then encourage them, okay, you've written a paragraph, you've got some feedback from it. Now, can you rewrite the paragraph with that feedback in mind? And then I get them, look at your first paragraph, look at your second paragraph. Can you see that they're better? And then we can use that as the basis for a discussion. And again, it's all about really trying to encourage a responsible use of AI, not simply using AI to get an answer that we can copy and paste. We always need to encourage some processing of the response that that they receive. Does anyone think it would work particularly well with their students? And someone I see in the chat has mentioned that, yeah, this is different to um, peer assessment. And again, just like with the speaking practice, it can be done, alone. This is the same. They're getting feedback from an AI bot. They're not getting it from one of their peers. So again, there's not that potential awkwardness with writing and having a peer read it. When you get feedback, especially, like teenagers, when they can be sensitive, they might not want to get feedback from their peers. This just makes it a lot more anonymous. And someone in the chat said, yeah, and it's also slightly kind of, I wouldn't say blunt, but maybe just that little bit more direct. Sometimes with peer assessment, we can also have the issue that nobody wants to say anything that might be considered like negative in some way. So people might not give a full picture. The AI is much more likely to give a fuller, more rounded picture in terms of feedback. Okay, let's see a few people have written some other things. Okay, someone's mentioned, yeah, we do have to be a little bit careful with AI helping learners with homework a bit too much. And I think that's where, if we can demonstrate responsible AI use in the classroom, hopefully we can set our learners up to take that attitude and use it outside of the classroom as well. Also in the chat box, sorry, someone's mentioned just the fact that the feedback is instant. So, it's helping our learners develop at their own pace. They don't have to write and then wait to get feedback either from their peers or from their teacher. They're getting tailored individual feedback quite quickly, so they can then continue with, let's say, developing their piece of writing. I see someone else has mentioned just the value of prompting AI about the genre and the format. And I think that is where AI can really shine, because obviously it's been trained on a large amount of data. So it's got a good idea of what a report should look like, of what an essay should look like. So it can definitely help our learners with that. So if we're going to use this, I just recommend that we encourage our learners to present their work before and after the AI feedback. So that's why I said get them to keep a copy of their first draft and then compare it to their second draft as a reflective activity after this. So they can see the value of getting feedback from AI, and they can see how that the AI helped them achieve a better piece of writing rather than doing it for them. Someone mentioned in the chat that AI is very good when it comes to different genres of writing and providing models. And yeah, we can encourage our learners to ask for model texts using AI. We could perhaps also use AI to break down process writing. So, at each stage of process writing, the brainstorming, the developing ideas, the planning, the writing, the reviewing, the editing, AI can be used to help learners there, but not to write the whole piece for them. So there's many ways that we can use AI in this way to help our learners develop, again, not just their writing skills, but their critical thinking, it might be that some of the suggestions that the AI gives them, they don't want to use, and that's perfectly fine. But we need to get them thinking about that and why. And also, again, this helps develop their autonomy. Hopefully, our learners will be able to use AI like this, possibly even in other subjects, or when they enter the world of university or work. Okay. So we've looked at some tips for how AI can be used to help our learners. Let's move on and look at how AI can be used to support us as educators. So I've split these up into two sections. We have lesson preparation and giving feedback. So if we look at this here, our sixth idea today, yeah, AI can be used to generate lesson plans for us. And I've sometimes used this as a teacher. I found it very useful. And what I've done is I've practiced what I preach. Well, actually, we always say practice what you preach. I guess here I can say practice what I teach. So I've always made sure that if I've used AI to help me plan a lesson, I've always critically analyzed what AI has suggested. I've always taken some of the ideas, but maybe omitted others or adapted some, because ultimately, I know my learners, I know my teaching context, AI doesn't. And even if I was to write like a full essay describing my context, AI might still produce something that doesn't quite fit. So you always need to make those decisions. So just as always, it's important if we're going to use AI to help us plan a lesson, we should always be careful with our prompting. So something like this: write a lesson plan using Prepare Level 7, Unit 2, to introduce and practice vocabulary. Why should we avoid writing a prompt like that? Mhm. I think if we look at this prompt, we can see it's not giving um, the AI really all that much information about the context. And exactly, someone said in the chat box, it might not know the student's book. Exactly, it's unlikely that the AI will have been trained on a specific title. And it's important that we never put copyrighted material into an AI chatbot. So it shouldn't be. Someone, again, I can see other people saying classes are different. Maybe something like this might be better. Again, thinking about the content of the book, but being careful not to copy and paste anything that's copyrighted. We could do something like this. I'm an English teacher. Write a lesson plan for teenage English language learners at B2 to introduce and practice the following vocabulary. And then we have the lexical set. The plan should be for a 50-minute lesson and include discovery activities, vocabulary and context, and production. And then the chatbot should be much more likely to produce something which we can use. Now, in this case, here, I'll copy and paste it into the chat box for you. We have a link which takes you to the same material as that QR code. If you take a look at that lesson plan, could you please give me your thoughts on that lesson plan in the chat box? Do you think that this is a relatively serviceable lesson plan? And if you teach such a class, would it work with your class, or would you need to tweak it in any way? I see someone said yes. So yes, it would work, or yes, you would need to tweak it. And if so, how? I think, yeah, I see, yeah, generally, like I see a few people saying, yeah, it would work. And I think that's that's the usefulness of it here. I would always say we can't tell our students to be critical of the output of AI and then use AI uncritically ourselves. So I would always encourage teachers cast a critical eye over it, make sure that the activities are activities that your students would be interested in and that are appropriate for your learners. And and yeah, just be prepared that you might get like a very good skeleton or outline of a lesson, but you might need to change some of the activities. But definitely if you're a bit stuck with your lesson planning, or perhaps if you'd like to just do something a little bit different, AI can be an excellent source of ideas for your planning. I also, I like this. Somebody said it's a helping hand, and I think that's the best way of using it. I saw also in the chat somebody said that they often use AI for generating not lesson plans, but actual just activities. And I think that can often be an area where it can save us time. So in the past, as teachers, we might have maybe had a general idea of what we wanted our lesson to look like, and then we'd either have to go around looking for worksheets to photocopy that fitted exactly with what we needed, or perhaps we'd have to sit down and write something ourselves, and it would take a long time. Well, now we can easily generate the content of worksheets, of online quizzes, like discussion prompts, all sorts of things really quite quickly. And then just, as I said, quickly check the content and then we're ready to go. We can copy and paste it into worksheets, into PowerPoints, etc. And we have yeah, our material there. Okay. Now, in terms of using AI for lesson planning, I thought we could take a quick look at this. So this is something that's new from Cambridge. It's called the Teachers Hub. And basically, it's a new resource which we've created so that teachers have everything they need for their planning and their teaching all in one place. Now, if you already have a Cambridge One account, what's great is you can log on to the Teachers Hub using your Cambridge One credentials. So it's the same login. If, however, you don't, you can simply go to the Teachers Hub and create your own account. And it's got many features, including an AI-powered lesson planner. So we'll take a look at the features today, focusing on the lesson planner. With the lesson planner, one of the nice features is it actually remembers the lessons that it's planned over the last 30 days. So if you use it to plan a lesson and then you use that plan and you quite like it and you want to maybe copy it and then tweak it slightly, you can always come back and find the plan in the system. When you want to create a lesson plan, with this, you simply click on the Create a Lesson Plan button, and then you need to fill in some information. So you'll give information such as the topic, the duration of the lesson, the level. And what's quite handy is that if you're using a Cambridge coursebook, this AI, this specific AI, has been trained on the course books. So it knows the content of each unit and like the vocabulary and the grammar points which are covered. And then it will produce a plan. And what's quite handy is it produces the plan, which includes all the information you'd expect, like the equipment you need, and it has the different stages and activities and the answers to the activities. But to make teachers' lives easier, it's also got a separate activities section. So all of the activities that are mentioned in the slide, where they come with the instructions and the answers, in the activities section, it's just the activities. So you can easily copy and paste those and make a worksheet relatively quickly. So yeah, and as I said earlier, it's always important. We need to cast a critical eye over what AI produces. But I hope you can see this is something that could easily help you if you had problems starting your planning. And it usually does. I've used it a few times, and it produces fairly serviceable lesson plans. So it's a great place to get going. You might also notice it also gives you ideas for homework as well. So I'd suggest you take a look at that, especially if you have a Cambridge One account already. You might also be interested to know that the Teachers Hub also has some other features, such as the Resource Hub. There's resources there for professional learning and development, on exams and exam preparation, also on developing your knowledge of Cambridge One and how to use it, and also where you can find more resources from Cambridge as well. So there's a wealth of information there. Also, this is mainly for younger learners, like primary age and maybe pre-primary, but I think more's being added to it over time. But if you do teach younger ones as well, there's also the Findables section. So for primary courses, you can go there and you can find lots of worksheets on some common topics as well. So there's plenty of material there for you. So finally, let's take a look at how AI can help teachers in terms of giving feedback. So one idea is this: we could use AI to organize your thoughts and put them into complete sentences. So many chatbots have a speech-to-text summary tool. So these allow you to just speak to the AI, and the AI will sort of organize that into a coherent paragraph. So in this case, the idea is that you would have, let's say, a student's piece of writing, and you read it, but before you start reading it, you tell the chatbot to summarize what you say in complete, coherent sentences. And then as you're reading through the writing, you just say your thoughts. So you might do a running commentary, for example, and then the chatbot can turn it into a coherent text. So again, here, the idea is not that the chatbot should do the feedback for us. We're here deciding what to include in the feedback, but it's just helping you write that feedback in a much more time efficient way, because you're simply giving it your thoughts, and then the chatbot turns it into something much more concise and coherent. Another thing that we could perhaps do is sometimes ask AI as to what we should focus on when giving feedback. I think sometimes, especially I remember when I was quite new to teaching, I found giving feedback on writing sometimes overwhelming, because there might be like many things in a piece of writing that needed to be fixed, for want of a better term, in some way. And I think sometimes if we could ask AI for help in deciding what to focus on, then that can just help us get unstuck when we encounter this. So with this, we would upload for work to ChatGPT or another chatbot. I would always say, though, if we're going to do this, it's very important you have to make sure that there's no personally identifying like material in the work. And then we could prompt it like this. The written work below has been produced by an A2 level learner. Remember, we always need to specify the level so that the chatbot knows what it's working with and completes this task. Include the task. Tell me what an ESL teacher should focus on with feedback and why. So we're getting some ideas from the AI as to what to focus on. And again, we don't have to follow what the AI says. We need to be critical about what it says. But I think when we're in that situation where we're a bit stuck with how to start with feedback, this idea can be really, really helpful. Okay. Before we finish up, obviously, we've kind of touched on it as we've gone through the session, that if we're going to use AI in the classroom, it's important that we have some clear rules with our learners. So I do think it's important that you do, if you're going to encourage your learners to use AI, have some clear rules and discuss them with your learners. And again, that comes back to that whole idea of reflecting on the use of AI after you've used it. In activities in the classroom. And these rules do not need to be set in stone. Perhaps as your learners develop with their attitude and how they use AI, you could get them to maybe add new rules to a list or tweak them slightly. It can be a living document which you and your learners negotiate together as they go on their like language learning journeys. It's also important to remember that it's likely that your organization, but also the education ministry, might have some rules regarding the use of AI in the classroom. So it's important that you familiarize yourself with those and follow them. And where possible, I look for opportunities to discuss hallucinations with my learners. I think the more we make them aware that they can't trust everything that AI says, then over time, the more likely they are to use AI in a responsible way. And as you can see, as we've been talking about today, just at every opportunity, if we're going to use AI, it should in some way be used to help develop our learners' skills and knowledge. And we need to remember that classrooms are highly complex social environments. Like ultimately, an AI chatbot is not going to be a substitute for a teacher who's in the room with the students. And so not only is it unlikely that AI is going to take our jobs anytime soon, it also means that AI needs to be seen for what it is. It's simply a tool for achieving some form of aim. Okay. So to finish off, I've got some final takeaways. So it's important that we don't underestimate AI, but we do need to be aware of its limitations. Hallucinations are really important. We need to be mindful of them when we use AI, and our learners need to as well. AI can often be used to help learners with brainstorming and creativity, as we saw with the image generation. If we're going to make the most out of AI, we need to be ready to learn new skills to get the most out of AI. And I have some suggestions for how you can do that in just a few moments. And even in the age of AI, writing skills are really important. And if our learners have good writing skills, then that means that they can actually evaluate what AI suggests to them when it comes to using AI to help them with their writing. And just to reiterate, we don't need to worry about losing our jobs in education to AI anytime soon, but there is always that issue of perhaps we need to be mindful of people who can use AI better than us. That's something that could be a factor going forward. So we'll finish off with this quote from Nikki Hockley. We can expect an increasingly AI-infused future. To ensure that we make the best of this for ourselves as teachers and for our learners, we need to be informed, principled, and most importantly, critical users of this latest form of AI technology. And I hope you can see that was one of the main themes of our session today. Just before we finish off, I'd like to poll you again. How confident do you now feel about using AI in your teaching and to support your learners? So is it N, S, or V? Ah, good. I'm seeing a few more Vs now, so that's good. A few S's, mainly V's, only a couple of N's so far. So based on this very scientific method of polling, I'd say that we've moved from mainly N's and S's to now S's and V's. So that's good. That's good to see. We have a few minutes left, and I did promise you some extra resources. So if you would like to learn more, I've included some QR codes here. We have a link to the webpage for the book from Nikki Hockley. There's also some QR codes for some online documents and blog posts from Cambridge on generative AI and its use in the classroom. There's also a generative AI ideas pack for English language teachers from Cambridge. And this ideas pack has ideas for how you can use generative AI in lessons, but also in your planning and to help you with your professional development as well. So I'd highly recommend taking a look at that. There's also these resources from Cambridge. In terms of AI, I'd say take a look at the Write and Improve. Write and Improve is a resource from Cambridge where learners can go there and they can select a writing task. They then write their response, and the response will be AI graded, and they'll be told roughly what level of English the response is at, and also some areas for improvement will be highlighted as well. So again, this is a really good example of how AI can be used to help our learners become much more autonomous. And we've spoken a lot about life competencies today, although we didn't focus on that. But we looked at how critical thinking is essential when using AI, but how that AI could also be used for some collaborative tasks, for example. And critical thinking and collaboration are both examples of life competencies, which are included in the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework. If you'd like to find out more about these, I've included a link here, but I've also included QR codes to these. Now, these are activity cards which relate to those life competencies. They've been graded by life stage. So we have cards for young learners, for teenage learners, and for adults. And these cards give you some really nice ideas about how you can extend material that you're already using or activities that you're already doing in the classroom to practice or develop some of these life competencies. So perhaps if you really want to think about how you could help your learners develop their critical thinking, you could try some of the activities here in the critical thinking pages. So there's lots of things for you there. I think that's enough from me. What I'll do is I'm going to copy and paste a link into the chat box. This link takes you to a PDF of the slides which I've used today. I'll also make sure a copy is sent to the organisers here, so that you'll get it as well. I'm sure. Just before we go, does anyone have any questions for me?
Hi, Ben. There's a question. Can I jump directly to
Yeah.
Delta or should I start with Celta? Uh, I think
Yeah.
you can answer this.
Okay. Well, I think it depends where you are in your professional journey. Generally speaking, the Celta is a course that was designed to be taken by teachers who were either at the beginning or near the beginning of their English teaching careers. Having said that, though, as a Celta trainer, I would sometimes have people who had been teaching for 20 years on my Celta courses. So because it's got a very practical element to it, even teachers who've been teaching for a while still take the course because they want to benefit from just the structured tuition and also the developmental ethos of the course and how they will be assessed through their I think it's 6 hours of teaching practice. The delta is normally taken by teachers who've been teaching for a few years and already have some kind of entry level qualification. Now, I mean, if somebody, for example, has been working as a teacher for many years and they have a teaching degree, then I think there would be a good case to say that they could take the Delta. So it very much depends on an individual's journey. But what I would say is that there is something that the CELTA can give to many teachers, even if they've been teaching for several years.
I can confirm that. I had been teaching for 9 years when I did my CELTA. So thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. No other questions. So thank you again, Educational Center, for making it possible for teachers to be up to date and to befriend AI and Cambridge this evening. Thank you, Raluca. Thank you, Cosmin. Thank you, Anna. I wish everybody success and do contact us if you need further support. Thank you.
Thank you also, dear Aniela and Ben. Thank you very, very much for your valuable contribution to this webinar. I think everybody agreed that it was really useful information that you provided and teachers followed you really attentively. So we would also like to thank Cambridge University Press and Assessment for their support in organizing this event and for our strong partnership.